All right, I want to talk to you a little bit about what I call startup judo. Now, judo is just a form of karate where you use your opponent's force against your opponent. And this thing that's supposed to set you back, your opponent coming at you, actually becomes the very thing that moves you forward. And in the early days, the fact that you're just starting up, the fact that you don't have a developed offering, that you haven't sold this before, that you don't have a thriving base of customers, can actually be your greatest resource. That's why I call it startup judo. So you need to start thinking about the fact that you're in the early stages as your greatest asset and use it as such. Have you ever heard somebody say, oh man, I heard that band when they were at a dive bar before they ever got famous, right? I have a friend who lived in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is where this band, the Dave Matthews Band, started. He heard him play at a dive bar, and for the last 15 years, he said, I knew Dave Matthews before that band became famous. We all have a friend who does that. Maybe we do that ourselves. People love to be in at the ground floor of things. In startup judo, what you're going to do is you're going to remember a few things. One, you're going to remember that people love to be in on the ground floor. So invite them to be a part of whatever it is you're starting. People also love to give advice. That's why we started with the ask advice technique for landing your first customers. So ask people for advice. And especially, people love to help get businesses off the ground, right? And so you really want to use that to your advantage when you're asking your early customers to not only buy your first version of your product or service, but partner with you to build that service or product. And there's actually some really interesting research that Dan Pink, New York Times bestselling author, in his most recent book, it's called To Sell is Human, he basically reports on some research that says that people actually prefer, if they have a choice, to purchase from a person or a company that has a good deal of potential ahead of them, as opposed to the established incumbent. And you are that person or company with lots of potential ahead of you. So the fact that that you're not proven means you have a ton of potential, and you want to harness that potential. So again, in recap, to harness that potential, one, you want to invite people into your story, let them know that they're getting in on the ground floor. You want to ask them for advice. And then third, you want to ask them to partner with you and help you build your product or service. So that's startup judo, and I want you to be in that frame of mind as you are getting people to actually pay you to create your product or service.